and CIOB. Delighted to say that we've got Natalie Bell along with us today, who's going to be discussing the very important issue of skills shortages. As per normal, we're just going to give guests a chance to sign in. So we'll be starting very, very shortly, but if you could just bear with us. And while we wait, if you'd like to just put your name, your organization, and where you're from geographically in the chat box, we can say hello to a few of you, give you a name check. This is a little something that I learned whilst I was a panelist over in the States. They're big on shout outs. So I go back to my DJ days to do this. So it's always a pleasure. So just pop your name and your organization and where you're from in the chat box, and we'll give you a mention before we kick off. But also it gives Natalie a good idea who she's speaking to today. So delighted to see that Mark Wakeford's with us today. He's joint MD of Stepnell's in the Midlands and also Vice Chair of CE in the Midlands. So good to see you here, Mark. Kevin Brocklesby in from T25 KCB Limited in Wolverhampton. That sounds like the HMS Pinafore reference. That I'm a GNS fan, by the way, many years ago. Carol Hennigan's in from Bouygues in the southwest. Matt Howells is in from MySpace in Cardiff. Rachel Moran from Balfour Beatty in Leeds. So already, Natalie, you can see people coming in from all over the UK. So you're all very welcome, and very pleased to welcome you along today. Let's just see what the time is. I think we probably ought to make a start. It's a couple of minutes past. So most of you know me by name, but my name's Andrew Carpenter. I am Chief Executive of both the Structural Timber Association and also Constructing Excellence in the Midlands and the Southwest. And we've come together alongside all my colleagues in Constructing Excellence from across the UK and the CIOB in the Southwest to bring you these regular Friday webinars at midday. We've been running these since March last year. They are proving very valuable, very popular. We've got well over 4,000 people now that have signed into one or more of these. So it's growing in reputation. So we're very pleased about that. As I say, today we're tackling one of the really, really important issues of our industry, and that is the skills shortages that we're currently finding. And I'm delighted that Natalie has been able to take time out of her busy diary to join us today. But before I introduce Natalie, I'm going to hand over now to Howard, who's going to take us through the house rules and a little survey that we've got for you. Thank you, Howard.
Thank you, Andrew, and good afternoon to everyone, and welcome. For those of you who are new, we're going to be using Slido. For those of you who are not, you're probably already underway. To use Slido, you can enter it in two ways. You can either go to slido.com and enter the hash and then LM with today's date 02/07/21, or you can just quickly go to the QR reader. Most people do this on their phone, which allows them to keep it open during the whole session. As we'll be using Slido for an opening poll, for Q&A. So if you have any questions and answers during today, please do enter those into the Q&A section on Slido. If you think one of the questions you see is a good question or one you'd like to, or maybe have thought of asking yourself, you can vote for it and that will bring it up the waiting list to be asked. We'll also be using Slido for an exit poll, and we would appreciate your opinions on how today went and to see how we can improve and learn for the future. So Abraham, if we can put today's poll up, I'll run people through it. Some of you may have already answered it. Indeed, two people already have, as you can see from the meter on the top. As many people's views would be appreciated, as this obviously gives a view for the presenter and for all of us to learn from of what people's views are in the room today. So the first question is, how worried are you about the skills / labour shortage in your business? Now, bear in mind, we're talking about your business. So if you'd like to answer that question, it's a very simple one. If you are extremely worried, you'll be looking at 10. If you're not, you'll be looking at maybe 1 or 2 stars. So, okay, so it's rapidly going up. Do not worry if you want to take your time. We're not going to give the answers to this until after Natalie's presentation. So you do have plenty of time. So let's have the next question, please, Abraham. what are the specific strokes, labour shortages that you're experiencing in your business? Now, this is open, so you might want to take a little bit longer to just think and tap your answer in. And be interesting to see how varied those answers are. Okay, we're ticking away. 8, thank you very much for giving us your opinion. And the next one, it's a simple one. Abraham, if we can have the third question.
It's there.
Ah, right. So do you have barriers to training and/or recruitment? If so, what are they? That'll be really interesting what barriers come up there. And lastly, if we can go on to the last question, is the biggest issue for your business attraction of labour, talent, retention of labour and talent, or is it both? So those are the questions, 4 of them. So if you'd like to carry on answering, that'd be super. I'm going to hand back to Andrew now, and we'll run through those answers after Natalie's presentation. Thanks very much. Over to you, Andrew.
Thank you, Howard. And yes, if I could just reiterate what Howard's just said, it would be appreciated if as many of you as possible would kindly respond to that survey, because as CE, we do use the results of what you tell us for future PR and promotional activity, because it speaks loudly on behalf of the sector. So the more results we get in, then the better. So today there can be no doubt that one of the big issues that we're challenged with is that of skills shortage. And I'm delighted that Natalie Bell is joining us today. Natalie is one of our newest members, AccXel, and I know Natalie will be telling us a little bit about them, so I won't say too much. But Natalie, thank you for taking time out of your busy diary. And thank you very much for leading us on what is one of the key topics on all our lips at the moment. I'm going to go mute, turn my camera off, and I'm going to hand over to you for the next 20-25 minutes. Thank you, Natalie.
Thanks very much, Andrew. I'm really delighted to be here with you all today. For us, I just wanted to go through a journey about how AccXel, the conception of it and where we are with our journey. But for me and all of us at AccXel, we want your feedback as well. We're tackling the shortage of skills in the industry through our business. So we'll take you through that. But for me, it's about getting feedback from you and what you want us to do. So if I can share my screen with you. Can you all see that?
Yeah, I can. So I'm sure everyone else can, Natalie. Thanks very much.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So in the presentation today, I just wanted to go through the basics of who, why, what, and how. So first of all, who are we? So I'm Natalie. I'm the Business Growth and Partnership Director at AccXel. I've worked in regional and national construction businesses. I was formerly in the senior management team within Care Living. Nicola, she is a founder and managing director of AccXel. She also happens to be my sister, if anyone's noticed the resemblance. But the key thing is that she's also 3rd generation of KW Bell Group. So she is the Safety and Business Development Director here at the family business. And this is how the whole AccXel concept was started. So our why. So KW Bell Group, it's over 50 years old. It will turn over around 80 million this year. Quite a large employer in Gloucestershire in the Forest of Dean, about 600 employed on a directly employed and a subcontract basis. And for us, the skilled shortage is a massive issue. Succession planning, there in the picture is my mum, my dad, my sister and I. My dad's turning 60 this year. He wants to retire, but how will that look? What will it look like in 3-5 years' time? We have a huge reliance on agency. We have 20% of our workforce retiring within the next 5 years. What's going to happen? And we started thinking about this about 4 years ago. When my sister started the succession planning in the business. But going back from that, both of us working in construction, we've both been to lots of networking events, lots of seminars where this is an issue. So huge, great events where they're trying to, where they say, well, what are we doing? What are we doing about the skill issue? What's going to happen? And however many times we say something and nothing gets done. So we've actually taken the bull by the horns and we've decided to do something about it ourselves. And it's like the phrase I put there, if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. And we've been in this situation now for the past 10 or 15 years. If we stay as we are, we're not going to get any different. So our why. So looking at the stats, it's really quite scary. 160,000 new entrants to the industry by 2023 to keep up with demand. 22% of the workforce are going to be retiring. As we said, that's a major issue in our business, the older workforce retiring. 22% in just within the Forest of Dean. It's very, very scary. And also on the mental health side of things, it's the national average is 1.6 higher for mental health issues and suicide in construction than any other industry. And so not just looking at our own internal business and in the local area, but the national statistics are very, very scary. So we got to thinking about this. And 4 years ago, my sister put into place a plan, or planning as such, as she wrote a pilot project. She had 2 small apprenticeship hubs, one in South Wales and one at our head office in the Forest of Dean. We brought through 23 apprentices and 17 of those graduated, and we wrote our own programs, and she found that to be very valuable. What we didn't like so much is that it wasn't the environment wasn't very conducive to learning, in that they were in porta cabins. It wasn't inspiring people. It just wasn't fit for purpose, really. So fast forward to last year, summer last year, and the Getting Building Fund post-COVID came out. She was invited by the local enterprise partnership in Gloucestershire to write a bid and write a business plan within 4 weeks for some government funding. I actually remember that we'd gone away to Sicily in midst COVID, and I was on my 5th Aperol Spritz when she phoned me and said, "Oh, can you help me write the business plan in about 2 days?" And I was quite reticent about it until then, until I figured that it was actually quite important. So fast forward 4 weeks later, we had the funding approved. KW Bell had bought the land, and we were on. So this project has really come from nothing through to everything within the last year, sort of 9 months, really. So what is the solution for us? So when we sat down and wrote the business plan, what do we want to see? If we're saying that nothing is working, what will work? What does construction need? What do we see need change? What is it that we're going to need moving forward within the next few years? Okay, fine, right. So we need to change the face of the construction education. We need to attract people in. We need to retain people. We need to make it an aspirational career, and we need to attract diversity. And those are massive. It's not, those aren't tentative goals. We are actually putting our market in the ground and saying those are our goals. And they're huge. They are huge. And we're not going to do it on our own, and we're not going to do it in 5-10 years. But what we're doing is we want to make a start, and we want to make a start in the right way, in that we are representing industry and what the industry needs now. And those are the goals, and they are massive, but we need the how. So this is AccXel. So numbers, really. So we received 1.96 million from government. This has also been subsidised by over £1 million through the private company KW Bell Group Limited, rising all the time. So what have we got? We've got 980 square metres of floor space, over 2 floors. The colours we're very proud of our heritage in the Forest of Dean, and the colours of AccXel represent the iron ore, the coal and the stone in the surrounding forest. The build started last November, has kept on programme pretty much all the way through. It will be finished this November, and we will opened the doors to our first learners in January 2022. So it's a huge space. We have 10 teaching spaces, 40 parking spaces plus overflow car park, cafe, study pods. We have a digital wing with our 10-star simulators. We have a mock live site, practical training area, and a lecture theatre that will fit up to 120 theatre style. So this is also our pièce de résistance, really. So as well as AccXel, the actual building, we have our mock live site, which for us represents everything that construction does need at the minute. So it's putting all of the theory into practice. So if you see my cursor, so that's the AccXel building up there. So this is our mock live site. You come through the entrance and you'll have the machinery training area with the JCB machines. So how we've actually designed this site is that it follows the path of constructing a house. So we have our deep drainage, our trench boxes, foundation dig area, bricklaying pit, drain laying area, pipe laying. Then we move on to our AccX area, which is new technology for us, as opposed to digging within footpaths and roads. We then have our utilities detection area with our partner Leica, block paving, slab laying, and it basically mimics a real site. And for us, it's so important that when we get our learners through the door, we can take them to this site. So once they have their theory and once they have their simulator experience, then they can come onto site and they can experience it properly. So we have this absolutely massive building and this massive investment. So how are we actually going to deliver on the goals that we've set ourselves? Well, we're trying to take it in sort of bite-sized chunks, really, but it's a huge task. But what we have is we have aspirations and we have goals. So we are going to reach those through schools, investing in people, investing in the future, investment. We are very, very lucky to be supported by very large brands. So we see in the picture there, that's George Bamford. He actually visited the site last November. We are the first training centre in the UK to offer the JCB plant operation trainee programme. That will mean that JCB will be providing the 10-ton excavator, the telehandler, the dumper and the roller, brand new every 6 months for our trainees to learn on. And for us, that's massive because they always have the, they have the latest technology available to them, which is very, very important. Also, Leica Geosystems with the ground penetrating radar, the GPS systems, they will be replacing their equipment every 6 months on our sites too. So brands like that partnering with us and showing their faith in what we're doing is hugely important to us, especially as we haven't even got the building up yet. So that was a significant win for us. Also partnership working. So it's working with industry, it's working with educators, it's working with trade associations, government departments like the DWP, the Career Transition Partnership, trade associations such as CAVE, the Chartered Association of Building Engineers. We're trying to bring everyone together to provide some kind of solution to what to a serious problem that we're facing. And fundamental to us is that we're listening to what the industry needs, and we need that constant feedback because we need to shape how we move forward. FE colleges, HE colleges, they are, due to their bureaucracy and how they are set up, they can't be as responsive as we're able to be in this environment, and moving forward, listening and implementing what they need. So connection of industry with education. So for our launch year, we're having 3 trainee programs, and we've substituted the word apprenticeships because we want to get away from the stigma. We know that a lot of people will have been made redundant through COVID, whether in the hospitality industry, the travel industry. They may want to career change and want to encourage more older people into effectively what is an apprenticeship, but we're calling a trainee program. So for us, we've stuck to our core expertise, I suppose, as a business in the first year: bricklaying, groundworks, and the JCB plant operation trainee program. And for us, it's just sticking with those at the beginning, but we will be introducing more apprenticeships and more trainee programs as we move through the years. So how are we different, I suppose? How are we different to any other normal training provider? So what we have is our employer partners. So we get applications through our website, which will be launched early next week. People will apply for our trainee programs online, and they will be invited to an assessment day. So the first one being in December this year. And what we mean by assessment day is it's not about the academic credentials of the applicants, but it's about their attitudes. Can they turn up on time? Can they bring a pen? Can they work in a group? It will be a full day of team building exercises, interviews, just discussing what their aspirations are. And for us, it puts them in a good frame of mind about, this is an aspirational career, not just something that, it was a bit of a last resort. So once we get the trainees in for the assessment days, we will then also have our employer partners on board. So these employer partners, they will have the same values as us, the same aspirations for their staff and bringing in new talent into their business. So once we have them on board, we can go into the schools and say, these are all the employers we have signed up, apply for one of our trainee programs, and we will match them. So when we have our shortlists from the assessment days, then we will match them to the employers. We will also have an employer liaison manager who will visit the trainee every 6 weeks and report back to the employer. And for us, it is about, again, that relationship. It's not just about getting them the qualifications, getting the basics and sending them out on site. For us, it's a long-term relationship. And as happy as the trainee and the employer can be in the early days, the better the relationship will be, and the more likely they will retain the staff. So those are the trainee programs. And one thing that runs through every offering that we have at AccXel is the whole person approach. So what we're looking at is every aspect of the person. It's not just about the qualifications, it's not just about the NVQ or the trade, it's about who they are and building them as a person. So not only do we just look at the qualification, in all of our courses we look at the built environment and sustainability, we look at quality, we look at health and safety, but we also look at personal development and support to mental health and well-being. And so that's on our trainee programs, but what we offer is this. So what we've devised is an industry path, I suppose, anything from trainee up to site manager. So it's literally building blocks. And what we look at is anything from skill step 3 to 5 is industry based. It can be from any discipline in construction. So 1, 2, that gets you the qualification up to trade. 3, 4 and 5, that progresses you to site manager. And again, it's looking towards giving people that aspiration, that ambition to build something. So we're going from experience here in our own business. What we find is we have a massive bottleneck between trade and moving into a supervisory role. So for an extra few pounds an hour, they do not want to be in charge of people. They don't want that hassle, that extra responsibility. But it's not just that. It's if they don't have the tools to do it. And that for us, being in the business, we've learnt hard yards. So what we've done is at tradesperson all the way through to site manager, we've built in those skills. So we're actually working with industry partners, Quolux and Mates in Mind. And what we're doing is in each of our learning systems, we've put in mandatory modules for personal development and mental health and well-being. So they will learn how to manage people. They will learn how to hold a meeting, have a difficult conversation, leadership skills that wouldn't normally be taught. And for us, this is key, especially they may want to move up and progress in the construction industry, but they don't know how. They don't know what the next step is. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to get that help. Also, in terms of mental health and well-being, the statistics are scary. 2 suicides a day, every day in construction. And that's frankly unacceptable. So what we're doing is we're building in mechanisms for them to be able to talk, to learn to recognize the signs, to talk to people, to be aware, and that will hopefully holistically build the whole person. And that's what it's about for us. In terms of aspiration, again, it's the sky is the limit in terms of construction. People are very siloed within different areas of our industry, and they don't need to be. So we've actually partnered with University of Gloucestershire, University of South Wales and Quolux So if they get to site manager level, the next step is, why can't you do a degree? Why can't you do a postgraduate degree? Why can't you do a doctorate if you'd like? Anything to do with construction, and move up through the ranks and move up through the roles. For us, with AccXel, with the building, we want to make it an inspirational and aspirational place to be, because I think that's what's stopping progression of a lot of people in our industry at the minute. So construction and technology. At AccXel, we're really, really lucky, and everything is going to be state of the art. We're using the methods and resources that construction needs now. By that, I mean our 10-star simulators. So when we bring our trainees in, we will train them on the simulators first. They will have lessons in hand-eye coordination. But it's not necessarily just the excavators. We can train in cranes, in HGV, in buses. They can even have driving lessons on these simulators. They're fantastic. And it's really important for us that we make it as safe an environment as possible before actually allowing them on the JCB machinery. Also, the GPS systems, we're using that a lot on site, and with the drones, especially in our business, we know that our reliance on drones and GPS is huge now. And what we find is that the FE colleges don't necessarily have that capability to bring in that technology. So this is why we're trying to keep ahead of the curve, keep ahead of what we need in terms of how quickly the industry is moving. Competency and training at AccXel, we're very, again, we're learning and inputting as a business. We've learned all along. You may have dumper drivers that have been on your books for 25, 30 years. That doesn't make them necessarily competent in terms of safety. So for us, it will be important to get our employees into AccXel for competency training, refresher courses, especially based on health and safety, and especially in regard to plant. And what we're trying to do here is implement best practice, which is what at the end of the day all businesses want. And you don't want accidents and things to affect operation on site. So our services are just going through, that just basically says what we're doing at AccXel, and limitless construction education. And we have a very flexible building, and what we want to do, Nikki and I and our small management team, we're just one company. What we want is feedback from the industry about what you need. For us, AccXel in Gloucestershire is an exemplar. We want to move this around the country into different counties, and we don't see why there is any barrier to doing that. But we want to be shaped by what construction needs. So going back to when I said how the retention and attraction. So a massive barrier for us is actually attracting people into construction, especially when I was at school. Incidentally, my sister and I weren't encouraged into construction at all by our family. Nicola was a lecturer and I was actually a lawyer before moving back into construction. It wasn't an aspirational career or a career at all for a girl when we were growing up, which seems slightly ironic as we own a construction business. But anyway, fast forward the years, we absolutely love it. But it still is the case that we're not getting the people through the doors, whether that be women or whether that be any of the talent, because it's still a fact of the matter is that construction isn't seen very nicely. It's seen as a last choice or a last resort if you're not very bright or you don't know what to do. Pick up a shovel and get onto site. And for us, it's all very, very wrong. And it's about education. It's about information. Where do you go? If it's not your brothers or your dad's uncles on site and you get a job, where do you go for this information? Where can you get the experience? So this is why we've come up with Constructing Futures. So basically, Constructing Futures is our ideology and our aspiration, and AccXel is a facilitation of that. And this is what we want to do. We want to go into schools and we want to inform people. We want to educate people. We want to let them know what roles are out there in construction, where they can go, where it can lead to, possible career paths. And for us, that's very much part of our business plan moving forward. On the Constructing Futures poster are our avatar family. The 4 girls are actually named after Nikki and I's 4 daughters, but they all have different roles, and we all have backstories for them, and we will be building on that. But it's trying to just put a personality and put a face to, you know, the typical construction worker or the atypical construction worker, but just trying to inform people, especially those at school. In terms of a schools engagement program, as a part of our one of our outputs for the local enterprise partnership, we will be launching a nationwide, potentially soon, a county-wide school engagement program. And we have actually partnered with the University of Gloucestershire for a schools competition. So what we will be doing is we'll be getting different groups from different schools into AccXel to do a week or month-long competition. There'll be prizes, accreditations, things like that. What we want to try and do is make it exciting, and that's what it's not seen as at the minute. And again, this isn't going to be you know, a year or a 5-year plan. This is you have to keep this as a sustainable plan, and it will be rolled out over the next 5, 10, 15 years. At the end of the day, we need to get more school kids into construction and think of it as a career that they can aspire to, but not only aspire to, get in and you know, reach whatever heights they want in terms of role and responsibility. With our Constructing Futures pledge, so this is for our employer partners and other people coming on board with AccXel and just buying into what we're trying to do, pledging to invest in their staff, invest in their people. Going back to what I said about seminars and meetings, we hear everyone say, and we have been guilty of it in the past. Yes, we invest, yes, we employ people, but we spend so much on machinery, we spend so much on technology, equipment, and we don't invest enough in our people. And our people are the biggest asset to our business. And I think, you know, in my heart of hearts, I actually do think that that's one of the biggest reasons why we're in this quandary and why we're in this position that we are now, is because we haven't invested in people enough in our businesses, and it's coming back to bite us. Again, diversity, we've got a lot to do in this area. You know, the stats of women, especially in technical, senior or board roles, is frankly shocking. Again, it's not something that we're going to be able to address imminently or within the first couple of years, but we're doing our bit. I mean, hopefully, you know, seeing 2 women head up what is essentially a construction school, you know, may inspire some women into it. But we do have a goal of 15% female learners in through AccXel by 2027. Hopefully it will be better than that, but you know, we have to abolish the myths, and we have to get past the perceptions that women have, but not only women, ethnic minorities. Diversity covers a huge topic for us, and getting those different people into construction is a massive task for us to tackle. The Eco Hub. So we have another building on site, and we've actually put in a bid with the University of Gloucestershire to form an Eco Hub. So we know how, for us, the green element, the sustainability element to construction is huge, and something that will come across through all of our teaching. So in this building, what we want to do is convert it into an Eco Hub, have a modular home in there, have a research and development department. We've heard from a lot of housing associations that need to actually retrofit their houses to comply with EPC in the next couple of years, and that's huge. And what we want to do is bring everything green agenda and sustainability into one area, so we can do the research, we can be ahead of the curve, we can start learning about what needs to be done, and again, what the industry needs in terms of what can we do to make our buildings more green, and how do we build greener. So sort of synopsis for us, you know, we're very, very much, like I said, at the beginning of our journey. It's not even built yet. It will be finished in November. The launch is in December, and we have our first learners through the door in January. But our aspiration by 2027 is that we'll have trained over 500 people, graduated over 500 in skill steps, and with short courses and learners over 6,000. And again, it's a huge ask, but Nikki and I are optimists at heart, and we know this can be done, and we know it can be done because it's what the industry needs and it's what can be delivered. So like I said before, for us, this is an exemplar. Once we get AccXel up and running and in good shape, then we will be looking to engage with other construction companies and other LEPs to build AccXels all around the country. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Natalie, thank you so much. Inspirational stuff there. So a great presentation, I'm sure, which was appreciated by all. I think what we want to do next, if you could stop sharing your screen, Natalie, that would be good. That's fantastic. And I think the first thing we'll do, while we give people a chance to put their questions in Slido, is just to ask Abraham if he put the results up of the survey. And we'll take you through those answers, Natalie, just to get a comment from you.
Mm-hmm.
If we can, that's the first thing. So while you're waiting for this, folks, if you've got any comments or questions, I'd like you to put them in the Slido Q&A. And Mark Wakeford, if you're still with us, I think you are, I'd like to bring you on screen later to have a bit of a chat about what you're proposing at Moulton College, because it would appear that this topic is on everyone's lips at the moment. And some of the stuff you've been talking about, Natalie, is actually being discussed in other parts of the UK. So it'd be quite good if CE could bring people together to learn and share knowledge. So can we have the results then, please? So how worried are you about the skills labour shortage in your business? So there you go, Natalie. It looks like very heavily weighted towards the upper end.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
As expected, like I said, we've been talking about this subject for, I know even in our business, for the last 15 years, or our dad's come home over a bottle of wine and told us how bad it is. So yeah, to be expected, but it just, again, brings home the point that we need to do something about it. And what we're actually doing at the moment isn't working. Why isn't it working? What can we do? And how can we improve it? If this, the plan that we're implementing and the plans, we should have more people coming through the doors.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing, Natalie, for me, is for someone that's been at the change agenda for 23 years, we've known what to do and why we need to do it for many, many of those years. But what we've been struggling with is the how. And I think what excites me now in the UK construction industry is that we are now looking to adopt the how as being critical and as a priority. And I'm seeing that on all sorts of fronts. Today, we're talking about skills, but it could be net zero, it could be quality and compliance and so on. Okay, let's go on to the next question, Abraham. Let's have a look at the results or the comments, because I think this was a series of comments. So there we go. You can read them, Natalie, mainly across the board, virtually all trade, children, young people across the board, trying to teach the next generation. If you could scroll through, Abraham, that would be great. Thank you. I think we're scrolling. We're just about to, yes. So across the board, it's pretty much across the board. People are saying manual, technical, managerial, tradespeople, quantity surveyors, bricklayers, succession planning, difficulties, age versus necessary skills. So I think people are saying it's across the piece, Natalie. Is there any surprises there?
No, absolutely not. But it is interesting that, I know we're starting with the trades and that's our speciality, but for us, I just saw a comment just now that the skills for the retrofitting and the green skills and things like that coming through, and this is why I wanted feedback from people, is because we need to shape what we're offering in years 2, 3, 4. We want companies to come to us and say, oh crikey, we need 20 people to retrofit gas boilers and things like that. So for us, it's about, what do you need? Tell us what you need and we'll do what we can to implement it.
So within CE, we're looking at the other end of the scale. We're introducing a diploma in collaborative working at the end of September, where we're offering people the skills of how to work collaboratively, because our main issue within CE has been that people talk about collaboration, but they don't know how to do it. It's just a weasel word that they use to win contracts, or, they put it in a tender bid, but then they go back to the office and they revert to type. They send everything out to tender. They don't involve the supply chain early. They don't pay them on time. I could go on. So there's a lot of behaviors that need to change. Otherwise, that saying that you quoted at the beginning, which actually was first used in 1994 by Sir Michael Latham, if you always do what you always did, you always get what you always, that one. Yeah. We've been using that for 27 years, and he didn't invent it. So yeah, it's absolutely spot on. Let's go to the next question, shall we please, Abraham? Do you have any barriers to training? So here we go. Rising wages, salaries, lack of available places, no barrier, someone says. Can you scroll through, please? Convincing clients and senior managers spending money is essential. No. Time and needs, management addressing the situation, lack of awareness, resource. So any surprises there, Natalie?
No, not really. And I understand from the business culture and the managers sort of point of view. Like I was saying before, we spend millions on technology and equipment and plant and on land, but we're not spending the money on our people. We don't see that as a priority always. And I think that's what we're doing at AccXel. We're calling people out and saying, if you're going to carry on doing this, what do you expect to happen? And not only that, it's twofold. That we're not investing in our people, which means we're not retaining talent, but also we're spending more money on agency. And so it doesn't work at all. And then we complain about the rising salaries, the high cost of agency fees. So what we're doing, again, it's not working. And I think we have to go back to the basics. If we invested in our young people and in the people that already work within our businesses, we're going to have a much higher attraction and retention rate than we already do.
Okay, let's have the final question then. I think we have one more. The biggest issue for your business. So 50% say both. So there we go. 42% attraction, 8% retention. So yeah, I think that says it all, really, Natalie, doesn't it?
Really does. Thank you.
Okay, right. Let's go to the questions then, shall we? Mark, if you could stand by your bed, I'm going to bring Mark Wakeford in shortly, who's doing an interesting or proposing some interesting work in not dissimilar, but along the same lines. So, hi, Natalie. My core business is decarbonisation. I'm deeply concerned that our decarb plans and deadlines are unachievable for this reason. Your views? Matt Howells asks.
Probably right to be worried, but it's all dependent on what you need to fulfill those plans, I suppose, what they need in terms of skills and people to actually put those plans in place, and how are they going to actually do it. But it is, we have the green agenda, we have all these sustainability deadlines to meet. Are we going to meet them? I really don't think we are, and I think that's what everyone is worried about at the minute.
That's a very pessimistic view, which is just disappointing me, because I actually sit on the Construction Leadership Council's Net Zero board, and we're in the middle of setting metrics and milestones, which we're launching on the 20th of July or thereabouts. So
no, I am a complete optimist. I am, but I'm also working at the dirty end of the construction as well. So
well, no, we're back to the how, aren't we? We're back to the how we're going to do it. We know what we need to do and why, but we're back to the how. So, okay, let's go to the next question then, please, Abraham. So, hi, Natalie. Is the training only going to be traditionally based, or are you going to lead the way forward on MMC?
Yes, absolutely. So, like I said in my presentation, we are looking to implement an eco hub on site. And that will have in it a modular home, and so basically people can put them together, take them apart, but also in that eco hub we will have an R&D base, and that will be research and development into all kinds of MMC. But for us, we have had talks with the manufacturing industries, the modular companies, on how we can collaborate, how we can actually work in partnership together. So for us, we are traditional house building contractor company, but it's the MMC agenda is huge, and we want to be very much part of that.
Okay, thank you. Next question then, please, Abraham. You say your offering is different to that of the traditional college. Is the cost competitive given the extra things that you're including in your program? Anonymous.
Yes, so we are a CITB approved training provider, so we use the suite of qualifications. We've actually written bespoke, but they are obviously to the standards, and you can get grant back for that. So what we're asking in terms of our trainee programs is an additional contribution from the company of £600, and for that you get £2,000 worth of additional learning and additional qualifications, including, like I said, the personal development, the support, developing the whole person as opposed to just a qualification.
Okay, thank you. Just a comment to folks, if you could put your questions in Slido. I've just noticed on chat we've got a few questions. If you could transfer them across to Slido, that we can take them through the process and get them on screen. So let's have the next question, please, Abraham. Hi, Natalie. First of all, absolutely love what you're doing as a woman in construction myself, says Rachel. Are there plans for you to take this national or further north?
My sister is going to absolutely kill me. But yes, absolutely. Like I said at the end, once AccXel is up and running, we want to, this will be for us a very steep learning curve, warts and all, what's good, what's bad, what's been done well, what not so well. But we want to use it as an exemplar. It was actually cited in the House of Commons a couple of months ago. But they want to use it as an exemplar for this kind of skills training and construction. And when it does, when it's settled and everything's in place, we'd love to take it nationally or work with different construction companies and different LEPs to provide this in different areas of the country. Okay,
thanks, Natalie. I've got one more question, and I'm going to bring Mark Wakeford in to have a chat with you. So how do you feel T levels in construction fit into all of this? Says Chris Lithgow from Cirencester College, not many miles away from you.
No, absolutely. And I'm actually on the employer advisory panel for Cirencester College. And I think what they're doing is great. So the T levels are the equivalent of 3 A levels, mixed in with some work experience. But what I see is that the T levels open their eyes to construction even sooner. And if it's educating people earlier in their careers and in their education, then I can only think that that's a good thing.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now then, Abraham, could you bring Mark Wakeford in as one of our panelists? And Mark, if you're with us, perhaps you'd like to put your camera on. I'm talking to Mark about an exciting project that we're hoping to get off the ground in CE Midlands at Malton College. And whilst it's not directly aligned to what you've said, Natalie, I think there are a lot of synergies. And I just wondered, Mark, could you come on board, maybe explain what you're doing?
So I'm here, Andrew. I can't get my camera working. How do I do that? Is that Abraham doing that?
Bottom left, there should be a stop video or start video and a mute.
No, I've only got a microphone there, I'm afraid.
All right. Okay. Well, we'll listen to your dulcet tones.
Great. Well, Natalie, I think that's a really fantastic presentation, and all credit to you and your team that what you're managing to pull off there. I think it's really great to see somebody tackling some of the problems that we've all been facing for many years with such enthusiasm and finding answers to many of the challenges that we've all been grappling with for many years. So all credit to you and your team, and I wish you absolutely every success with it, because it's what this industry needs.
Thank you.
Sorry, okay. So as Andrew says, I have a number of hats I wear in this, and apart from being a vice chairman in CE Midlands and the joint managing director of a construction company up in the Midlands, I'm also a governor of a construction college in Northampton. And my concern to the governors at Malton College has been that the Romans would be quite proud of how we currently train our bricklayers. Well, we're in danger of training our bricklayers and our other trades and manual skills for a job that is going to last a few years before technology and the general rate of change within our industry is going to overtake them. And I'm really keen that we start to evolve the skills that we're training our apprentices, our young people with, so that they are fit for a career rather than a decade of work in the industry before they're in danger of becoming obsolete. Yeah. And so, as Andrew says, we're going to host a workshop at the college to try and explore what sort of skills we ought to be training young people to equip them for a career in 10 years' time. And so we're thinking particularly about the rise of digital. We're thinking also the rise of soft skills. So as you've pointed out in your presentation, we're really good at training hard skills in our apprentices, and that's perhaps where the focus is. But some of us think that soft skills are going to be every bit as important in our bricklayers and plumbers and carpenters as the hard skills we're teaching them now. And so really opening people's eyes and understanding what skills they should be learning is part of the workshop that we're going to be doing at Moulton College. And the bit that really struck a tune with me in your presentation was your steps to becoming a site manager. Trying to open people's eyes up to the need to learn managerial skills from the outset is so important if we're actually going to solve the skills crisis in this industry. And I'm really pleased to see that. So, I mean, that's a little bit about what we're trying to do and what we're trying to set up at Moulton College. But it chimes with quite a lot of what you're saying. And it's really, I suppose the question for you would be, what are the skills you think we're all going to need in 10 years' time that we need to be addressing today in our training for our young people?
Thanks, Mark. Fantastic.
Thank you.
It's brilliant, obviously, what you're doing as well. Absolutely, with the soft skills element, what we will be doing on site when it's up and running is that when we have our trainee bricklayers in, we will get the quantity surveyor undergraduates from the University of Gloucestershire down to speak to them, basically, because what we know in construction is that lots of people work in silos, whether that be technical, whether that be in the trade, whether that be in the office. We all work in our different departments and never any of them shall meet. And I think that's where we're going wrong in terms of progression planning and aspirational career paths, because nobody knows what anyone else does. So that's important. But what you're saying about the skills moving forward, that is what we're trying to learn. So we are traditional, we build a house with bricks, and that's what we do at the minute. But yes, let's have that discussion. Let's open the forum to what we will need. I'm not saying that we have all the answers, because we really don't. But what we need to do is actually have that conversation, exactly what you're asking as well. Let's sort this together. Let's, as industry and bringing education into it, let's figure out what we do need and try and tackle that and implement that. So I'm sorry that I don't have the answer to your question, but it's an absolutely valid question. It's
a valid question, and it's why the debate is so important, as you point out. I mean, if any of us had the answers, we'd be on our way, wouldn't we? But we'd be
very rich, Mark. We'd be very rich people, I think, if we had a finite answer to that. Okay, Natalie, while we've been speaking with Mark, we've had another couple of questions, which I'm going to ask Abraham to pop up on the screen, if he would. So more support from Carol Hennigan at Bouygues. Just to let you know that Carol, Natalie, is our foremost speaker on skills and young people in the Southwest. Carol heads our Swindon and Wiltshire club and is on the main board of CE Southwest, and a great exponent of what you've been talking about. So she's not surprisingly very impressed with your fantastic initiative. But back to the how. What do you have planned to bring teachers and parents on board?
Great question. So as I said in the presentation, we will be launching a county-wide school engagement programme to speak to the careers teachers, going to the schools, get the schools out to AccXel for career days, employer showcases, things like that. But what you've identified, Carol, is actually what we've identified. It's getting the parents on board. So it's having the mum and dad say, oh, construction, oh no, that's not a great job to be in. We need to change that perception. And so that's a large part of what we're doing with our Constructing Futures initiative. So on our website, which we'll be launching next week, we'll have the Constructing Futures website. And that's a portal for prospective entrance into the industry, but also the parents to go on. So you'll see our employer partners and who buys into our Constructing Futures pledge. So the parents can be educated and they can look and see who the employers are, what they provide, what they will bring. So it's very much about educating them and giving them as much information as possible to actually bring on the children. And for us, again, we're learning all the time. Any pointers or hints and tips on that would be greatly appreciated.
Well, I think maybe a conversation between you and Carol offline would be mutually beneficial.
That would be fantastic.
I'm hoping this is maybe a role that CE can play in acting as a vehicle to learn and share best practice in not only this important topic area, but others as well. So Kieran asks, please, what links do you have with the University of South Wales? There we go. There's an opportunity, that sounds like to me.
Yes, so we do. We are working. We're just finalising details of working in partnership with the University of South Wales, and that is actually through our partner, University of Gloucestershire. So where we're situated in the Forest of Dean, we're equidistant from both Gloucestershire and South Wales, and so for us, that's a huge avenue to both places. So we will be working with the University of South Wales in terms of our schools engagement programme, our competitions programme, and what we want to do. We have our trainee programmes for students in Wales and for those in England. So what we want to do is obviously then once they have their trade or they move up the skill steps in their companies, that they will go on to the relevant universities, whether that be in Gloucestershire or South Wales.
Okay, that's good. 2 more questions before we say thank you. So if we could have the next question, please, from Kevin Brocklesby. How do you think the industry will get to the government target of 70,000 homes from an MMC perspective by 2030? Can I jump in there, Natalie? Can I?
You can carry on, Andrew.
Can I take off my CE hat and put on my STA hat? Because actually, it would be quite simple to do that if people moved towards timber frame. At the moment, the number of timber frame homes in the UK is about 1 in 4, so about 50,000 across the UK, predominantly in Scotland. But if we move that up to say 1 in 3, we'd get to the 70,000. And not only would we get the MMC targets met, but we'd also, more importantly, if anything, get the net zero targets met. So there's my 3 pennyworth, 6 pennyworth. Natalie, what about you?
You answered that perfectly.
Okay. All right. There you go, Kevin.
It's tough because for us, as a construction in business, then it's about cost at the end of the day, and it shouldn't be. I'm not saying that that's the right way to go about it, but in terms of MMC, modular home, manufacturing capability and things like that, it's still, it's going back to that, we've always done it, so it's not broken, so let's not change it. And until there's an incentive.
It is broken. That's the problem. The current system is broken because we're not delivering the homes that we need, and we're not delivering on the net zero because of some of the building products that we're using. So it is broken.
It is broken, but as long as it continues to be controlled by the big house builders, and their targets are to drive down cost, I don't think we're going to change that.
Well, the big house builders are changing. Barratt's, for example, who are probably the biggest, they've just bought a timber frame company, and they're moving quite substantially towards using off-site timber frame. So it is changing.
Slowly, not quickly enough then.
No, you're probably right. Anyway, don't want to get dragged into that. Kevin Brocklesby also asked, how do you think we've moved on 2 questions. Is that the one? Is this the last one now? But we're on the other one. I have 3 girls, says Kieran. One is 16 and recently completed GCSE. I'm shocked that 40 years later, careers advice in Wales is targeted to A levels and not much else. Now, what do you think about that, Natalie?
I agree. There's not enough education about further careers and possibilities after GCSE, and that's going back to even when I left school 20 years ago. It was, you do A levels, you go to university, you get a degree. I have 2 daughters, and I would advocate the vocational approach when they leave school every day at the minute. It is shocking, and it's not where we want to be, but in terms of what we want to do in construction, and what we're trying to do in that sphere is give them more information, get into more of the schools. They only have so much time, so many resources, and we understand that, but it's a case of if we educate them, then they can educate their pupils, and that's what we will try to do.
Well, Natalie, that's probably a good question to finish on, because we've probably gone right back in full circle to where we started on this, which is understandable. But I think you can probably judge from the number of questions that it's been a very interesting topic. So can I thank you very much once again on behalf of all of us for giving of your time and your knowledge during the last hour. and in particular to say thank you for what you're trying to achieve, which is really exciting. So thank you very much, Natalie, from all of us.
Thank you for having me.
Abraham, can we just have the final few slides up on the screen? You can see the slido.com code there, which you've been using all morning or afternoon. Please do fill out the exit survey. It does help us in terms of planning. We've got a couple more weeks of this program, and then we're going to have a 6-week break for summer, and we'll be back in September. If you want a CPD certificate for what you've heard for the last hour, please go to mypropass.co.uk, and the code is CE687. CE687. You've just had a lovely message, Natalie, from Kieran, who says this has been an excellent presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is it possible to, if I would love feedback from people in the industry. So are we allowed to share contact details? Or
we can share the chat column. I'm sure Abraham can do that for you.
Thank you.
All I would like to say, as I say, we've got 2 more of these over the next couple of weeks before we take a break. 2 more highly important topics that we're going to cover. Next week, we're going to be looking at insurance. So PI next week, which I know has been another major issue for many, many companies over the last 12 months or so. So next week, Friday the 9th, we got James Bainbridge from Marsh. And then the final one before the summer holidays, so to speak, we're going to be dealing with supply chain issues on the 16th. So I do hope to see you all again in the next fortnight. But right now, I wish you a lovely evening, and let's keep our fingers crossed that football's coming home. Cheerio.
Bye.